and welcome to episode 477 of the GodIsAGeek.com podcast in both audio and visual form, if you're that way inclined. My name's Adam Cook, I'm your host this week and every week, and I'm joined by a motley crew this week of, it's like a cast, an ensemble cast is the only way I can put it, because Chris White's here. Hello, Chris.
Sup.
Chris Hyde's here. How are you, Chris? That's...
But he went with just
Oh man, I tell you what, it's been a while since we've had a four-person on, so much so that when I just showed Chris on camera, what you saw was not Chris at all, but Lyle, small picture of Chris, and then I accidentally played the intro again. Hello, Lyle, how are you?
Hello. Wow, sounds like a great introduction. I will watch it later.
I am having a time, is the only real way of describing it. How is everybody? Because we are, I was going to say in the middle of it. We're not in the middle of it yet, really, are we? Let's be honest.
Like, really?
I mean,
I don't know when it's going to end.
It's been a fantastic month so far. Like, January is good, but like, whoa, bloody hell! And then there's so much more to come.
Balls
but like, can we get into it?
We can, but I just want to show how great of an amazing live producer I am by the fact that while you were talking there, I fixed it. Chris Hyde, would you like to do a full screen introduction?
Hello, Adam Cook. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Thanks very much. There you go.
That definitely wasn't forced.
No,
I genuinely
and there's Lyle. Lyle's got a full
fair.
screen as well. Look, there's Lyle just sat there in the most amazing shirt. He's waving at you right now. That's just live production for you. Sometimes it happens, and you know if you're listening to this later that it's done live, that there's no edits, that we're just this good and professional. But speaking of good, see, Horizon Zero Dawn was a game that came out in 2017?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same year as Breath of the Wild. Lyle?
Same month, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or same couple of weeks.
It was very close. They were both
within days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It might well have been. But
You
now
were
we got
playing
Horizon.
Zelda, weren't you?
I was playing Zelda. You were playing
Awesome,
Horizon. I still think I just about got the better deal out of it, but like it's, time has proven that I very much like that game. But Horizon Forbidden West, it's a bit of a video game, isn't it, Chris White?
It is, mate. It is. I said something in a review, which this is how I see this game. It's very much The Empire Strikes Back to A New Hope in terms of it's the same fantastic world, but it's just expanded in every possible way. Like, it doesn't do a lot of new stuff, really, does it? Really, there are new tools, and bits, but the same kind of flow of the gameplay is the same.
Do you know the one that I think of when I know what you mean by the Star Wars thing. The one I think of is, and don't take this the wrong way in terms of the actual game, because I know this is a series that divides fans, but I also think of it kind of like how Assassin's Creed, then Assassin's Creed 2, in that there was no, I mean, there are mechanical changes in Forbidden West, but they're not like drastic. But also the thing that kind of took me biggest by surprise is the scale of this game.
Oh God!
It's. I mean,
and it's not just
huge.
the scale; it's how packed it is.
Yes.
Like, there's not, even though a lot of it's kind of like free from NPCs or any real interactions with characters. It's so alive. Like the whole machines, like in the original, they were very much living, in their own ecosystems, and you could watch them from afar and you watch them graze on the food or communicate with each other. But like you can leave it be, or you can go and kind of get involved. There's just like the different biomes as well. It's this like it's so big, like the jungles and the kind of the deserts. It's not just like sand and a few mountains. Like the sandstorms and the weather changes depending on the day and night. You got blizzards in the snow, and it's just, and not only is it that dense, it's just gorgeous.
It's one of the best,
it's
the prettiest games I've ever played. I've ever seen.
So good.
I don't even think the video footage does it justice fully.
No.
It's in motion. It's like it's some sort of witchcraft. Like the water's the most realistic
The
water.
water looks stunning.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
But like, I don't know if this is a sort of thing that will put people off, because one thing I'd say about like the size of it is that when I finished the game, there was still like not massive but fairly big portions of the map that were fully grayed out that I had never seen. And I saw, like, I was looking through, like, when reviews went, and I saw some stuff on, like, Reddit and that, where people are saying, oh yeah, but that's just probably a load of water. And it's like, it's not going to be, because having played the game for 40 hours, I can tell you now, there is nothing's just plonked anywhere. Like, it feels, I don't want to overhype it, but you know how, like, Watch Dogs 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5, like, they do the living world thing. Now, it's not on that scale, because they're not realistic worlds, if you know what I mean. They're like mechanical, like, robot dinos and crocodiles and stuff roaming the lands. But in terms of, like, the desert, for example, we won't be spoiling anything here, but there's a desert sort of section of the game, and, like, the amount of content in that section alone. Like, I saw people arguing over, oh, well, the map leaked out. I think it got onto Reddit early, and people were like, oh yeah, the map just keeps going. And then someone was saying, oh, Guerrilla have said this, that, and the other. I think the map's, I mean, it's got to be close to double the original game.
Yeah.
With the DLC included, I would say double that map, all of it.
But it's not just about, like, the size, is it?
No, not at all, not at all.
It's kind of like the what is there to do. Like, I found that there's not like loads of icons. Well, there is loads of icons.
Yeah, but a lot of them are just bonfires, which are saves.
Separate kind of arbitrary crap to just do for the sake of it. Like, everything, every kind of collectible you find is rooted in a mission or a purpose. And then every side quest isn't just go here, bring this back for me, go there, kill one of the machines, bring that back. It's like a full-on narrative within each kind of side character.
There's cutscenes for. Do you know, again, what I likened it to, Chris? I don't know if this all. I know you love this game series, but I likened a lot of the companion stuff in this game to the kind of loyalty missions in Mass Effect.
Yeah,
like you recruit them, so to speak. You go to your base together, and then you go back and talk to them, and you unlock eventually like their loyalty mission, which is like fully cutscenes, voiced, like a proper mission. Well, but I would argue most of the side stuff is kind of.
Your comparison, you know, like, I felt the same way about the base and bringing everyone back.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's the bit I'm talking about. I'm trying to talk around it a bit, but
yeah, no, because the difference is one of the main differences is that you've got like a central hub now.
Yes, which was weird at first. I will say, at first, weird, I was a bit like, but it absolutely makes sense.
Because you don't find yourself going there all the time. But one of the things you do in this is you go to cauldrons like you did previously, and you unlock the ability to override certain machines in the wild.
Yes.
And you can go back to your base and fabricate the machine so that you can summon them when you're out strolling. So if you want to call a mechanical hippo, go for it.
And why wouldn't you?
And absolutely. And like that, everything can be, I'm fairly sure pretty much everything can be overridden within reason, and like without going.
I don't think you can ride everything, but you can definitely have them because there's a skill in the skill tree that lets you decide whether you want them to be defensive or offensive. But I'm pretty sure you can I mean, the only one I would be unsure of is I won't name the name, but like the kind of Chris, we talked about it earlier today, like the biggest one. I think that can be. I think it.
Yeah, it can.
It might be able to be
because the cauldron in the sea.
Yeah,
in the water. They're all like the big boys.
Yeah, I want to say I saw that.
You can.
Yeah,
but like again, like this game is beautiful throughout the campaign and doing all your side quests and stuff, and then something unlocks, doesn't it?
Yes.
Towards the end, and it becomes a completely different experience of traveling around and just experiencing the game. And like there's not a lot more you can say. Like it's I'm not saying it's without its faults, because it isn't.
There's not many
game,
no, but there ain't a lot wrong with it.
Very slim. Like the there's since the review has gone live and I have been back to it, I am still getting a few little, like the screen blacks out for
another patch went live today, So my hope is, because it was very minimal. Like, so we should explain. There was a patch during the review process. Prior to that, there were like what they call micro loads. And if you've played the original Horizon, so when you save at a bonfire, the screen goes to black, very quickly fades back to the game. It's just like a save, or a micro load, or a micro save. And what it would do is, there was no real rhyme nor reason that I could work out to when. I don't know if it was a texture loading thing, but sometimes it would just do that, and you would go, oh, it's okay, you know. I had a couple of crashes pre-patch, but there's been, like I say, this is now the second patch, so my hope is, because after the first patch, it was very, very minimalised.
This will release as polished as possible.
I think so.
I feel that very few people are going to have to deal with any kind of issues with it. Like, it is technical masterpiece. It is a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, it's incredible, right? Yeah.
Because what they've done with this game is just remarkable. Like, it's such a big. I've never seen an open world feel this way or look this way, and you can interact with it in such an organic way, especially with the machines. And it's just incredible. Like, when you're traveling and you come across like a, I don't know if I could. There's this mass, because there's obviously new machines.
Yes.
There's this one like huge beast, and when you see that just in the wild, it's terrifying. But then you go back and you've got the skill trees and nuts. Like, there's like 6.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6.
But
definitely.
You do unlock skill points quite. It's not just at every level, is it?
It's every mission. It's every mission and side mission,
and stuff like that. So you can fill it up pretty quickly. And
there were times where I was so engaged I forgot to sort of spend them, and I would look up and it was 12. I had like 12 skill points. I was like, okay,
20 just because I'm.
Yeah, you just
like,
playing
some
it.
of them are, they're not like game changing, but then some are really useful. So it just
big
depends,
time.
But
they have.
do it.
It's interesting because they have. I know we said that doesn't. I don't know. I think we're doing a disservice and they haven't changed a lot, because the combat, I feel they've actually gone to town on. So like melee is an option now. There's there's button combos, and with R1 and R2 now, there's you've got the kind of almost DMC style of like R1 pause, R1 R1 to do a move, or R1 R1 pause, R2 R1. You can. It almost looks like a cutscene, and they have shown it, but you can hit an enemy and then you hold R2. It's an unlockable skill, and then you launch into them and you jump back to pull your bow and arrow. That's all you are doing that, and it is never ever anything but like incredibly cool. You can even hold forward when you do it, so you can actually hit someone, then jump over them to then pull an arrow someone who's behind them and shooting like that.
I feel like just while we're on the subject of combat, that we need to talk about it, because
I think they've overhauled the combat in full stop. Like the bow and arrow stuff is brilliant.
Well, I rarely use melee because I
really liked it, but I
never enjoyed it, but not because it was poorly executed. I love using there's different, obviously, like the last game, there's different bows. Like there's your hunter bow, which is your standard. Your kind of
what's the name of the one that's the one? What's
the
that?
Bow that shreds the
the actual weapon that is designed for that. Like, is it called a shredder or something?
I don't know.
So
I had a bow and arrow that shredded.
Okay, well, it's totally optional. Yeah, I love the idea of tearing them. But there's a weapon in this game. I think it's optional, because it was only because I was like, it was in the skill tree that you can unlock, because they've got like ultimates for each of your weapons. Every weapon's got its own ultimate. Like, you can fire like 6 arrows up into the sky, or you can change that on the D-pad. So one I found was incredibly useful was with the sharpshooter bow. Like, it was like a focus shot, and it did just anything it touched, it was like 3/4 dead. But there was a weapon that kept coming up in the skill tree, and I hadn't found it. And I love this weapon because it's like a slingshot, but not a slingshot. So you kind of you wind it up and you throw it, and it's like a bomb that tears into the machine and flies back to you, and you have to catch it. So it's almost like playing Windjammers all of a sudden. So you have to go to the left or to the right and watch this blue spark, catch it, throw it back, keep doing it. After the 3rd time, when you throw it, it stays and it explodes. So it's tearing the machine apart, and eventually, if you keep catching it, it explodes. And doing that when you're up against like a really big machine that's absolutely fucking coming at you is just like the most incredible thing. Like I nearly missed this weapon completely.
I haven't got that weapon.
There you go. And
I got a spear, like a specific spear from a side mission.
Yes, I got that, and the spear was a mainstay for me. But you know what? In the first game, what's it called? Not the trip caster. Is it the rope caster where you can tie enemies down?
Yeah.
I didn't even get one in this game. I know it's in
did
there.
You not?
No, and that was my favourite weapon. I used to love that because you could tie them down and do a silent strike.
The bolt caster was fucking amazing.
Oh, the bolt caster's great.
Because obviously there's different elemental damage you can do.
Yes.
And it's so satisfying.
Yep.
When you have the right and bombs as well and traps, and there's so much you can really plan out how you take down a machine. So you're not just rushing into combat all the time. Like a lot of the time, there'll be points in the mission where you'll have to face an enemy then and there, and just hope you've got the right equipment.
Yeah.
But there's so many kind of ways to attack and to take down a machine. It's just.
But it's quite gamey as well, in that, like, if you do get to that situation and you're like, I don't feel quite equipped, you can just pause it, go into the menu and change your loadout. It's not like, oh, hang on, you've got to go back to base and change your loadout. So, no, you can just, if you haven't got the bolt caster and you really need it, because I ended up with big machines using the bolt caster, and it's one of its special moves where it unloads a full clip with you sort of and my word, that's something that is when you do that. And you just get the right distancing right and the spacing right, and you just nail a full clip of this thing into a machine. But
bullet time as well. You could slow it down and watch it just destroy this machine in one false swoop.
Combo that with like the fact you can now grapple hook to things, and they've put them in the environment that allowed you to do that. You can use the shielding to sort of swing off. I think the combat's. I mean, you would obviously want things to be better than the previous game, but like, there's not much about this they haven't improved. Even the subtle little things, like you can kind of climb anything now within reason. You can, and it's not like you have to follow that path, like there's specific nooks and crannies. You can kind of just climb a mountain, like, and it might take a while, but you can just do it.
The swimming underwater, that's a big improvement, because obviously there's loads of crates and ancient stuff like that. Yeah. That's the side, not side quests, but like the side bits, like where you find the black boxes.
Oh, they're great
which
fun.
Tell a story from just before the fall, and like the survey drones, you have to jump off.
They're great fun. They're like little
grab the drones,
little environmental puzzles as well.
Yeah. The viewpoints as well, where once you kind of line up an old image you've got with somewhere.
They did my head in. I felt like I never ever got it right. It took me like 20 minutes every time. I just could not find the right bloody spot. But they're good. They're cool.
But no, it's fantastic.
Like you say, what more is there to say? I mean, I don't know if it's on Lyle's list, but I know Chris Hyde is gagging to play it.
It's coming tomorrow.
I just want to play it now.
Everything you said has just made me go, I just want to play it.
It's just really enjoyable. Like, it's 40 hours and I still want to go back. That's quite a lot. That's quite a big statement.
Yeah. I mean, the reality of it is I'm going to end up playing it alongside Elden Ring, because just the nature of the squeeze, but I'm going to try and get as much of it out. Not because I want to rush it, but because I want to give it my attention.
It's very difficult to rush, actually.
Yeah.
Not that you have to grind or anything, but the way I think most of us play games, it's very difficult to just go, no, I am going to mainline this mission, because I think they do such a good job of making the characters worthy of spending time with. You want to see their stories as well.
Well, I remember how I played the original, and I'm sure this is just this dialed up to 11. So
that's exactly it. Yeah.
So I cannot wait. And everything you're saying there, just like how they've improved the combat and more options. There was a fair amount of options to begin with, like in the original.
It's worth saying that I think if there's one issue with the game, it's a slightly slow burn at the start. Like the way they've shown the game of this kind of colourful jungle with like the water and the coastlines and that, it does take a reasonably in-depth amount of time to get to, like, there was one particular area of the game that I just could not pull myself away from because of how it looked. It was just so gorgeous to be in that area, and I kind of felt like that's what they've shown. And while the game is, it's gorgeous and it's fun, it's always fun. It's not like you're not. It takes a little while to get there. It is a journey.
It does, but like the story itself it's thoroughly enjoyable, I felt, throughout, and it goes places you don't expect, especially from how the last one finished. I think there's a lot people are going to enjoy about it, and like the new threat, which is in all the kind of information that's been released so far, that's really intriguing concept, and where the series will progress now is, there's a lot of leeway in this franchise. And
there is more now than ever, I think, as well.
Yeah, and it's only going to get stronger, I think, if they just, it does make you feel, how can they improve it further? Because this in every kind of essence, it's fantastic. So how could you possibly improve what's already there when it's all so good as it is? But I'm excited to see.
And it's only February.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we didn't touch on the story too much. I don't know if we'll have time, truth be told, to do a spoiler cast at some point. It's worthy of one. I just don't know if we're going to have time, because it's just crazy with games at the moment. And on that note, Mr. Hyde, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been playing Total War Warhammer 3. So the latest.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
What's the? I know it's not your thing. It is mine, which is obviously why I've been playing it. But I know it's not your bag. That's fair to say. So Total War Warhammer 3. So Creative Assembly again.
It's not Alien Isolation 2, is it? That's all I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying
it's a very different game. Very different genre. So anyway, right. So Total War Warhammer 3. So third in the Warhammer series, the end of the trilogy. In terms Total War games, so there's a lot of this that if anyone's played any Total War game before, they'll know what they're going into with this type of game. Okay, yeah. It's a dense kind of strategy game with lots of battling, lots of diplomacy, lots of tactical elements to it, and really, I guess the way I kind of want to speak about this one is kind of trying to compare it to other games in the Total War series to kind of get a sense of how this game feels, right? Because otherwise you end up going over the same old ground when you talk about Total War games. For me, the things that set apart different games in the overarching Total War franchise is kind of three areas, really. One is kind of like how much stuff there is in it compared to itself, if that makes sense, because it's dense by default. I think that's pretty clear. There's always a lot of stuff to consider, but how much stuff they pack into each kind of game in the series, I think, sets it apart. I think the lore and world building is the second one. So how does it feel in terms of the setting? And we'll come on to the kind of the Warhammer setting in a moment. And then the other thing is kind of how different and varied the different kind of faction campaigns are to play is the other thing that I think sets it apart. Because if they feel very samey, it can feel like more of a slog, and there's less to kind of get your teeth into. So in terms of the first bit, so in terms of how much stuff there is compared to Total War, there's a lot of stuff, but I come away from Total War Warhammer 3, saying it right, feeling that if you've been playing Total War 3 Kingdoms, you're probably going to think this is slightly scaled back, ever so slightly in terms of content. Not that there's not a lot of stuff to do here, but in terms of just like the things that you're juggling in a campaign, just feel ever so slightly that it's a little bit, I don't want to say streamlined because that makes it sound like it's not dense, but it is. But in terms of the things that you're juggling each turn, it just was there's slightly less, slightly more streamlined, maybe slightly more accessible to people than that game. Take from that what you will. There's still a lot to learn. I will say that the prologue does a very good job of introducing all of that. Be prepared though, because that prologue, when you normally do a prologue in a game, it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes. This is 4 hours of a prologue. So strap in.
Do you know what I was going to ask about, like because I Adam previewed it, and I previewed it, and I felt like I've never felt more like a rabbit in the headlights.
I felt like I'd never played a video game before.
Yeah, they gave me like a fact sheet saying this is what's going to happen, and then I'm there and I'm watching everything just unfold in front of me, and just everything's going into the shitter, and there's nothing I can do about it because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to play this, and I'm not gonna because I'm not gonna have the time.
Nah. It is in Game Pass. It is in Game Pass, just so you know.
Well, yeah.
That is just PC Game Pass, right? This isn't on consoles, is it? It can't.
I think it's just PC. I'm pretty sure it's just PC.
It's just PC, I think.
It must be. Sorry, I saw that and I thought it just wouldn't.
Yeah, it won't work on Xbox.
Yeah, I think it's just PC. I think so.
Yeah. But 4 hours, that's crazy.
Like I say, I felt like I could absolutely respect and appreciate what the game offers. Like it seems like it was whatever it is, it was well made. But it genuinely made me, as a man of 40 years old, afterwards go, I feel like I have never ever played a video game before, and like this is what it's like when you're trying to learn a foreign language. Like when you first start, if you were trying to learn Japanese and someone was just like, right, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you a book in Japanese and then we'll start to teach you it. And the whole time they were reading it, you'd be there going, huh?
It is one of those. I would be. Yes, I completely get that. If you have never played a Total War game before,
don't start now.
Well,
no, sorry, that's not where you were going. No, that's not where you were going. Okay, sorry.
No, they are very hard to play for the first time. They very much are. having played other games in the series, you know what's going to happen with the diplomacy. You just need to learn the nuance of this particular game. You know what's going to happen with the battling. You just need to learn the nuance of the game. So,
but on that note, one of the things that blew my mind in the world where like every company is trying to save a bit of money, aren't they? You know, we are in a world now where everyone's trying to claw money back. In Total War Warhammer 3, the whole battle system is skippable. So it's almost like an engine within an engine. This whole thing where you run in, like Chris and I run into each other, it's battle. Final Fantasy music goes, and then you've got this big battle scene where you are controlling or you're on, you know what I mean? You can actually play it, and I found it better to do that to just skip it and make it more of a strategy game where the battle was like, because it tells you they've updated this version to be, this game to be like, here's your odds, and the odds are pretty on the money from what I found.
Yeah, I don't think
I've crazy though.
In other titles you could skip and it would tell you, but I don't even know. I'm trying to think of one example where, because it tells you like, I don't know, like close Spirit victory or like slight defeat or whatever. It gives you a statement of how close the odds are going to be, and so you can auto battle it, like you say. I don't think I've ever had an outcome that's not exactly what it's told me it's going to be. Whereas in other games in the series, I go, right, shit, auto save just in case that it's not going to be that close victory and it's actually going to be a defeat.
No, this seems, I would say, almost every time was correct.
Yeah, it's on the money,
which is great because it means you can play it your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, to be fair, that has been in previous games.
Yeah, just not. I think it was more the accuracy they said they dialed in.
Accuracy, yeah. No, and I definitely agree with that. And you're absolutely right. You can spend hours and hours in actually the battles.
Yeah, those battles would that was one of the reasons I started skipping them, because I think I had a full day preview, but it's like these battles are taking. Some of them were like up to half an hour.
Yes,
and I imagine that only gets bigger. Yeah, like, as the game progresses, the battles get bigger. So I was like, well, I want to try this, just because one, I knew I had done my research and knew that this was a thing they had dialed in to make it more efficient. And I was like, I actually found I enjoyed the game more because I felt like the one thing I was getting was the systems. But when I was doing the battles, it felt like it was all of a sudden I was having to learn a second game that I wasn't quite finding as fun. And the systems, like I would be like telling... You know, it goes back to the days of almost Command and Conquer, where you highlight your troops and say, go there and do that. And it is almost one of those games within a bigger thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
But I found they wouldn't do what I was telling them to, if that makes sense, as much.
Yeah, no, there were a couple of times where I found that I'd have to tell them a couple of times.
Yeah, please move.
Just move.
You're getting hit in the back by an army of weird demon monsters. Please move.
Yeah, shoot your
I shouldn't
arrows
have
here.
to tell you this. This is why you're private in the army of Cook.
So no, you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of battles that you can't auto complete. And
yes,
again, I think that's a nice touch, because if people are really into the battles, more power to you. You know, and there's lots of detail within that, and lots of abilities and things you can be doing. You know, you literally can turn the tide of battle. Like, it's not just you're sitting there as like this passive observer of a battlefield. Like,
no,
if you don't do anything, you'll get annihilated. Like, it literally is you controlling the battle. So you can very much get, if you need more stuff to do in these games, absolutely go into every battle, but you can skip some if it. And I think, to be honest, the skip thing is, it's there a lot of the times if it's like, this is just, you're just going to piss this. Like, rather than actually going through the rigmarole of doing it, you're going to annihilate. It's more there for those battles. But anyway, so I would say this game probably has slightly less in terms of content compared to others, but still massive. Probably more than Troy, but less than Three Kingdoms. In terms of lore, though, and this is probably where you...
Like, oh.
It's in terms of...
You're saying a lot of words.
Yeah, in terms of lore, and it's probably where your kind of interest comes in, Chris, I imagine, in terms of some of the lore and the world is probably more interesting.
The Warhammer.
Yeah, the Warhammer aspect of it. You know, I mean, I really liked Three Kingdoms, and even Troy in terms of, you know, either when you're talking about ancient China or like Homer's Iliad, in terms of like, there's a lot of content there that they can explore and kind of.
You were 100% the kid at school who was properly into history, weren't you?
It's weird.
I was the kid that stood there and tried to get the line in, "Hello and welcome to our mass debate." Like, that was me, while you were paying attention to history. And
I will say it is weird that like the more recent Total War games have like honed in on the bits of history I actually like. So they're probably going to run out at some point. Like, I don't just love all history. I'm not that. I am a geek, but I'm not that. But yeah, well, I've been to China. I love all that sort of stuff. So like, really into that. And
sorry, what?
I've been to China.
That's like, you kept that quiet.
I proposed to my wife on the Great Wall of China, just to, you know.
Well, I'm sorry that we didn't all know that on the Great Wall of China.
He doesn't tell us these things, does he?
On the Great Wall of China.
Off podcast, none of us talk. It's
yeah, we're not
a business relationship, clearly.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, not being funny, you've made everyone listening to and on this podcast feel like their proposals or whatever were just shit.
Your proposals you did it were all shit compared to mine. If you didn't propose on one of the wonders of the world, then you're a cunt.
What's the statue?
I proposed while ziplining down the Eiffel Tower.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
What's the statue in Assassin's Creed you can climb off and hang off its dong?
I
proposed under that.
Whilst flailing.
No, whilst comparing, going, it's bigger. It's much bigger.
yeah. This is what you're winning.
It's so big. Should we move away from Warhammer?
If you want, I had loads more to say, but yeah.
Oh, by all means, if you want
okay,
to...
right. So what I will say, so obviously the lore in this game is huge, you know, because of the fantastical world. Mick mentioned it in the review, right? There's you're still thinking about knobs, aren't you?
No, I'm seeing the comments where someone has said 2-day walk just to propose, and that's tickled me quite a lot. Well done, someone.
He always puts me off. He's such an anyway.
No, I know. I think he waits.
It's so yeah, the lore is huge, and what that means is the actually plays into the last point around the variety of the factions is really good, because there's like demonic races and humanoid races. There's a lot of variety in there, and that makes like the creatures you can recruit and stuff and the battles a bit more interesting, because there's like, you know, there's like human warriors, and then there's like demons, like you're saying, like, God, there's like dragons and bears and God knows else what going on. There's lots of variety, and that does make it a lot more interesting than just humans fighting humans, right? Which is you know, it's still interesting, but it does add that flair to it, which is really cool. And I will say, I think it's probably in terms of the different faction campaigns you can play, of which there are 8, and there's some of them have multiple characters as well. There's so much because of the lore and how fantastical it all is. The kind of mechanics at play are very varied. So you play one campaign and it is completely different. Even though the end game, what you're aiming towards is the same, essentially. The way each of them plays is very different. So there's lots of stuff to get your teeth into, and each campaign does feel really different. Probably more so than any Total War game I've played. So yeah, I mean, Mick gave it an 8.5. I'd probably agree with him. There's lots to like in this game, and if you're a fan of Warhammer as well as Total War, then it's like the dream marriage, I would say, if you're into all that lore as well. So
Adam,
dream marriage,
chomping at the bit to get on it. Totally trying to end the podcast.
Yeah. I think he's like, I like the game so much I just want to finish the podcast immediately and go and play it. It's on Game Pass, so it's free, isn't it? You know.
I really want to. I'll probably dip in for like. Oh man, I will
dip the tip in.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's the podcast title.
There's plenty of them. Lyle, what have you been up to, mate? What have you been up to? I mean, I know. I hate doing that. There has to be a more... do you know what I mean? There has to be a more organic way than going, what have you been up to? Even though I know. So just talk about the game that's on the list then.
That's why Lyle says, well, I've been watching some more Sims, fuzzy, furries, pornography. So.
You used to be the king of the segue. And now you just
got lazy and jaded,
talking.
Mate. I've got jaded.
Well, you could just go, and now going to a man with an impressive Warhammer.
I don't want to. No, Lyle, just talk about Monark.
It'd also be a lie. So he doesn't want to lie to the listeners about... No, exactly. It's very good of you. I appreciate that you don't exaggerate my penis on the podcast.
That's a good title also. I'm honest with you, that's pretty good. It's a bit long. I don't like them too long. But the title. Okay. What have you been playing, Mr. Carr?
I'll talk about Monark now, shall I?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Explain what it is, because I know, but I think there's a way you could describe this that will make a few people go, huh? If you know what I mean.
Yeah. So it was a game that for...
Huh? Poor Lyle. He's just trying to talk.
No, I'm fine. This is all great. So I talked about it on the Game of the Year podcast when we were talking about anticipated games for those long-time listeners, a few months. But basically, it's from some. It's got a team that has some ex Shin Megami Tensei and Persona developers on it, and it's a game where it's.
Lyle, hang on. Can we all together? Can you do that bit again? And we will all go like Scooby Doo.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, it's from a team that's got some Shin Megami Tensei and Persona developers in it.
Thank you.
Yeah. There we go. Great.
The best reactions are the organic ones.
Yeah. I'll edit this and it will look organic.
No, you won't.
No, you're not wrong.
Okay. Well, so yeah, it's set in a school that's been taken over by this mist, basically, that has that when you spend too long in it, it turns you mad. It basically is this sort of mist of madness, and you wake up as Amnesia protagonist number 9722.
Limey.
Who you don't know what's happened. You get rescued by your little sister, and you don't know she's your little sister. And essentially you go out, you want to try and help save the school, you need to escape. You're worried about your sister. She has kind of like lung issues, and you think the mist might not be good for her. It doesn't seem good for anyone, but I guess you lays it down you. Especially bad for her. So, and then essentially you gather some friends. One of the people who rescues you is like the ex-president of the student council, and seems really nice. So she's like, okay, we'll go and investigate the mist. And then all the JRPG nonsense words come out of that the mist is being generated by these pact bearers who are all assigned to a different, like, one of the deadly sins. So there's like a pact bearer of greed and a pact bearer of envy and pride and all the, I could list 4 more, but I won't. I might not be able to, actually. I'd probably forget one. But yeah, they're basically like, they're people who were in the school, be they students or teachers, who, like, when this was all kicking off, their egos, their selves, meant that a demon called a Monark said you can have lots of power now if you like side with me, basically, and that's what's causing the mist. So you go off on an adventure, you make a deal with another demon, all the lots of JRPG shenanigans go on.
It sounds like Persona 5 kind of crossed with Persona 4 a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that, definitely. there's definitely a darkness to it. There's a horror element to it. It's quite sinister when you're walking around these like corridors and you just see students like curled up crying or bashing their head against walls and stuff. Like it's quite a horrific setting, really.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not pleasant to be around. And you know, as you might expect, there is some combat which involves. It's all centered around your mobile phone. I feel slightly weird talking. I feel like Chris Hyde talking about Warhammer here. In that no one.
The new benchmark? Is that where
that's the new benchmark of people saying words that that sort of drift over heads a little bit.
Can we just be clear about it being the low benchmark? Is that all right? Just to be absolutely 100% clear.
Sure, yeah, okay. If that's what you want to do, it's not me who said that, but that's fine.
But the phone stuff again. The phone stuff is
we're not friends off the pod.
The phone stuff is again very Persona-y, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So, like, when your phone will ring when you're in the mist, and it sort of transfers you to another world, and that's when you get into combat. And the combat is not just like JRPG turn-based combat; it's like a strategy game. So you control like yourself, a couple of sort of like underlings that are connected to your like ego, and a partner, one of the other people that you've joined up with, and you move around sort of like a 3D plane. You each sort of take turns, and you have a limit to your movement and like an ability you can use each turn. And I mean, it's just like it's kind of fairly standard tactics game type stuff, but I mean, it works really well as combat. It means that there's not just like constant random battles. Like each sort of area of the school that you are trying to rid of the mist will have sort of like 3 fights maybe before you've cleared it. So you're not just constantly having these random encounters. It's each one's sort of a more curated. There are these 5 enemies you have to kill, or you have to break a crystal to proceed through this bit. But it's really cool the way that the combat works. It's also tied into the madness. So as you're walking around the mist, your madness meter slowly builds, but when you in combat to use your special abilities, it will cost you some of your madness. It will build up your madness gauge more. So like to use your more powerful skills, you'll have to get madder, I guess. That's the phrase we'll use.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it's sort of it's kind of like a balancing act there. It's very cool. It's very, very story heavy. If you're not willing to sit through, it is a Persona level of narrative between the gameplay, and it's a very interesting game. There's some there's some very weird stuff in there, like the whole stuff to do with the deadly sins and your ego and stuff, sort of scattered around everywhere between all the combat and all the mist sections. You'll talk to people and they'll give you psychology quizzes, and they're literally, sometimes they're about 20 questions long, and we'll just be asking you all sorts of weird stuff with multiple choice answers. Sometimes there'll be one question, and some of them will be like, oh, what would you do if your boss was shouting at you in front of your other colleagues? Would you like confront him? Would you tell him later not to do that? Or would you just like go home and cry? Or some of them will be really weird, like they'll show 4 different cakes and just say, which one would you buy from the bakery? And almost no matter what I picked, they always basically said that I had lots of pride, so that I was an arrogant twat. And I mean, I can't dispute them that much,
it's
but
just cake apparently.
And yeah, because of the shape of cake I picked, it made me very arrogant. Yeah.
Does anyone really think of the shape of a cake when they're picking a cake? I mean, is there an option to have all 4? If you took all 4, then I would maybe think, yeah, okay, fair enough. The man's
that would have been greed. Yeah. But
you could do that.
You could. I mean, you can pick all these things. The way it works is it doesn't it's not really important to max out one of them. I think the game's sort of encouraging you to answer sort of honestly, and what you really get from that is, when you hit certain thresholds, you'll unlock certain buffs, but it's in each of the deadly sins, so it doesn't really matter which one raises. At some point, you're gonna buff anyway. But you have these weird quizzes. It's a very unusual game. Not at all, not really what I was expecting in terms of like this, just sort of like in-depth JRPG. I think the narrative's sort of more what holds it together, like meeting each of the pact bearers, who will usually just be people who were trying to help in some way or another, but sort of because they looked at the situation from a certain angle, it didn't end up helping. Like the very first person pact bearer, so like basically boss you end up meeting, is the pact bearer of Pride, and he basically thought that because he knew how this was working and he thought he was right, he was very confident in himself. The power he gained was the power to brainwash people. So he's like, oh, well, if everyone listens to exactly what I'm saying, we'll all get out of this situation, okay? But because of that, obviously, he's just this weird, tyrannical madman, and you have to take him down. And yeah, it's a good game. I enjoyed it. Not without its flaws, certainly. It runs quite inconsistently on Switch, which is where I played it, which is unfortunate because that's exactly where you'd want to play a game like this.
Yeah.
Really. But like the further you get into the game, you have like a sort of like a club room, which is your main base, and you sort of as you recruit people, more people in there, and then once you're at the point where there's sort of like 5 or 6 NPCs in there, as you turn, it's just like juddering along because they just can't quite handle it, and it's not ideal.
No, that's a shame. That's a shame. I really, for everything you've described about it, and the review, obviously, which you can read on godasageek.com, I really do want to find a little bit of time via a time machine or something so I can play this, because it sounds like it would be up my street. But, I mean, Christ.
In a year that's going to be full of games that are 9s and above, I would say that I gave Monark an 8, and if you are really struggling for time and for how long it is, it's hard to recommend.
It's more that, like, even you think it's going to be a mad year, and now people are still announcing release dates. Mm-hmm. Like today, as we record, a game was given a release date. Chris Hyde previewed it. That new Submerged has been given a release date today, and it's like, well. Anyway,
it's going to be a lot.
It's just not happening, is it? What else you been playing, Lyle?
I've been playing a game that I think you'd maybe like to play less than Total War Warhammer 3, and that is Dynasty Warriors Empires 9. Is 9 Empires? I think it's 9 Empires.
Oh, really? And it's not... Okay. I've been reading that wrong, if that makes sense, then.
Yeah. It's in the middle. The 9's in the middle somewhere. Basically, this is the game. I love Musou games. Everyone knows that I love them. Everyone else doesn't love them. I hear bad things about Musou games most days of my life in the God is a Geek Discord. And
it must be awful hearing about bad games in the God is a Geek Discord.
Oh,
I know. I mean, a lot of people do it. I'm not one of them, obviously. I only talk about good games, but it's a real shame. Unfortunately, this Musou is a bad Musou. This is not a Musou that even I want to play, let alone the people who don't like them. So I feel like I kind of got a little bit of perspective of what people think when I'm talking about Musou games.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's not very good. It's this more strategy focused version of the Dynasty Warriors series. So it's not just sort of like Three Kingdoms stories between very large battles. It's you choose a commander, and then every month you sort of pick what you do. So you'll say, like, maybe you want to focus on getting rations this month. Maybe this month you want to replenish your army. Maybe this month you want to go for a walk and talk to another commander and see if they want to join your side. And it's all sort of, it's quite interesting, if not maybe, I mean, certainly not as in-depth as proper strategy games, I suppose. But, you can get to the point where, like, you can marry people, have kids, they get passed on with your, like, combat abilities and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of stuff there if you want it. And then every 6 months you're supposed to pick a kingdom that you will invade, a sort of a province, I guess, that you'll invade on this big map of, little map areas that you want to take over and be the supreme ruler of everyone. And then that's when the Musou combat comes in. And I think this is what most people, nice thumbs up there, appreciate that, would sort of consider the Musou combat to be, in that there's not that much to it. It doesn't feel necessarily that satisfying, and it's not particularly exciting. But I would say that a lot of more modern Musou games have adapted and added systems that have made it a lot nicer. Also, just generally the combat feels weightier. In this, it never feels like you're hitting anything. So you instead of say in Samurai Warriors 5, which I reviewed last year and really liked, you have sort of like the way you would combo through enemies would be you'd do like 4 regular attacks and then 4 dash attacks and then a special attack, and then you chain more dash attacks onto that, and it turns into this sort of like dance of picking the right thing and using your abilities to chain things together. And this game is just either you press square, 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 and then a triangle button, or even more regularly than that.
So it's like every Musou game.
No.
Thank you, Christopher.
Listen to the first part of the conversation. No, we're not talking about that. Also, I think that sometimes pressing square, 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 triangle is fun when it's done well, and it's not here. And unfortunately,
sometimes pressing square, 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 triangle is fun.
Sometimes it's fun. And unfortunately, in this situation, there's also the main sort of other system is that enemies will just have a triangle button appear above their head, and that's kind of your chance to do like a counter attack. So it just sort of feels like you're pressing triangle all the time. You barely even press square.
Wait, so you have to sometimes press triangle instead of square?
Yeah, and it all falls apart. I'm probably not doing it justice in quite a few other ways. There's a few different abilities where when you hold a shoulder button...
I think you're doing an absolute justice.
Hang up job of this. This is great.
Thanks. You're describing Musou games really well.
Describing this particular Musou game, yes.
Yes, all Musou games, I agree.
Well,
I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. I think you should win an award for this journalism. The service you are doing right now.
To the people.
To the people.
To the video game community.
Well, I'll take that.
Someone in the chat said it's downloading as we type. So, I mean, well done, someone.
Well, I mean, some people will enjoy it. If you want to play it, have fun. I mean, I'd recommend a Samurai Warriors or a One Piece Warriors, or I imagine the new Fire Emblem Warriors will be very good. I'm excited for that. But
Lyle, will I like Fire Emblem Warriors? I love the Fire Emblem games. Would I like Fire Emblem Warriors? Yes or no?
I'm going to be honest. I will say no. I don't think you would. I know you don't like Musou games. I think Fire Emblem Warriors is one of the best ones.
What you can't see, actually, is on my shelf here, like just to the over here, off camera, there is a copy of it. And even though it's not on camera, like at any point, it's still behind another game, just in case somehow someone sees it on my shelf.
Wow.
It's like I should love like Hyrule Warriors. Like,
yeah,
I should
have a
adore
copy of that
somewhere
as well.
Like, but even though the first one, like, I was like, I did play it. I played it with my wife, and there's just like, even then, it's just after the first sort of couple of rounds, it's like it's the same.
But Lyle says they're good. It's just this one that's not.
Right.
That's right. Yes, that's exactly what
we're not reviewing all Musous.
No, sorry.
No.
I mean, you could, but very
easy.
Could
with what Lars just said. Yeah, no, exactly. But
what else have we been
should never have agreed to talk about a Musou on here.
This is why I don't do the segues anymore. What else have you been playing? Just this is why I don't ask that question. Go on, though. Let's move on to your final game of this week, I think, isn't it?
My final game, and one that I think everyone can talk about, and that is that last Friday I received Pokemon Legends. I can't remember if you say Arceus or Arceus. And
I think Arceus sounds better, but I think it's Arceus.
They sort of retconned it, and I have a suspicion that it's because it's Arceus, but they definitely retconned it. It's now Arceus. It is Arceus.
Arceus. Okay,
but I don't think it always was, and I don't think there's a wrong way of saying it.
Okay, well,
Arceus.
Pokemon Legends Arceus. I got that last Friday, and by Tuesday I had rolled the credits. So I think it's safe to say that I have very much enjoyed my time with Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that I still have quite a lot more to do on it, because I know there's quite a lot of post-game, post-credits, I guess, to dive into. But
you've kind of got that whole experience again, and then there's like the post game, if that makes sense.
Shit,
Okay.
there's so much to do. Like I love I love playing. Sorry, Lyle, you start, because I've already had my in on this couple of podcasts.
Sure,
so you go.
So there's a lot I really, really like about this game. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's my favorite Pokemon game, but it's definitely the best. It's not quite, no, unfortunately not. But I think it's one of the very best modern mainline. I'll make sure to say mainline so you don't bring up Snap as if I'm trying to disrespect the brilliant game that is new Pokemon Snap.
But I'm not sure if it is. This is my biggest worry. Now I've had time to reflect.
Well, yeah.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's going to have sold gangbusters. So
Yes.
hopefully this is the new main line. If they... Oh, no, I don't even want to entertain the idea of them going back. I mean, I like the 2D ones, the top-down, I like it, but this is just so interesting, you know?
There's a lot of really interesting things here. I mean, obviously the main thing is just like exploring a vast environment and finding Pokemon and not even having to fight them, just sort of sneaking up to them or even just running past them and madly throwing balls as you go. It's a lot more fun than having random battles. It's a lot more fun than not knowing what's coming, to sort of check every nook and cranny and find an exciting Pokemon like a Paras, except they're everywhere. As much as I love them, there's too many of them. Even I think there's too many Paras.
And Starlies as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of them. And that is one of my few complaints with this game, by the way, is that just, although there's a lot of Pokemon, I kind of feel like as you progress a little further, it feels like every time you go to a new area, there's just a few more repeats. And it just, I found exploring a little bit less exciting every time.
I do think that I was surprised when you get to a new area. Now, I get that you wouldn't just say, "Oh, there's all segregated areas just with unique Pokemon in them." But I was surprised, like, "Oh, Starly again." Like, I don't need. I just feel like, given how much more Pokemon there are in this game, and how I guess some of them are in very specific areas within certain maps. I do wonder if actually there's a need to. This is the third area I've been in, and it's the third area with Starly's in, for example. And does it need to be? But it's a very minor complex. It's low.
Yeah, definitely. I don't feel like it. I'm not trying to talk about the complaints in this game. There are a few minor complaints I have, but all in all, I think it's an absolutely brilliant way to evolve Pokemon. Like I love.
Yes,
that's pretty good. Nice.
Yeah.
Completely by accident, but I'll take it.
Whilst wearing a Pokemon shirt.
Whilst wearing my Pokemon shirt. But yeah, I think the only thing pretty much everything I'm completely happy with. The only thing I'd really quite like changing is I do think that they have made Pokemon battles themselves a little bit worse. I think they've made the combat itself worse.
So I saw you said this in Discord, and I kept my mouth shut. All I would say about that, keep playing. That's all I would say, because I get you. There are if you know your Pokemon, like I know you do, you can the difficulty is minimal because you can wipe enemies pretty easily.
Yeah,
I would say keep playing, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's not me trying to cut you off. I'm not.
No.
By all means, I get what you're saying. I would just say,
and I'm definitely.
Yeah, when you push into the next sort of stage, so to speak, of things, I think.
Okay.
Because it becomes more about like the legendary. I don't know why I'm acting like I can't talk about this game now. It's been out. It's out. You can buy it.
You can buy it.
You know, there are battles that take a bit longer, and there are battles where you'll get your party kind of wiped, and like there is definitely a difficulty, not ramp, because it feels correct and it's warranted. Yeah, that's all I would say about that. I think, yeah,
which is good and definitely something that I think I will appreciate. But I don't think it's just the difficulty that I have issue with. I kind of think that in quite a few ways they've simplified combat. Like a lot of moves that would be used, like there's a move called Stealth Rock in Pokemon, where if you use it and then switch Pokemon, the Pokemon that you switch into gets hit by these rocks, basically. So it's supposed to sort of like counteract someone changing between the Pokemon back to back to pick the right type and make things difficult for you. And in this game, it's just another move that damages you. And there's quite a lot of moves that used to have sort of extra added effects or extra like chances of things happening that now instead either just damage or maybe damage and then do a little bit more damage over time. And there are things like, obviously there's a lot of like, you can raise your attack and your special attack and your defense and your special defense. And in this, it's either just all attack stats or all defense stats. And I just think there's like a layer that they've taken off, a very small layer of complexity that they've taken off. And most people won't care at all. But I think there's a little bit of the nuance that I think that didn't really need removing. And I don't really know why they did. And I think they made everything just a little bit too simple, not necessarily too easy. But I mean, it's just something. I mean, it's so minor. I loved my time with this game. I was also going to say that maybe I kind of, as much as I like how everything works with the wild Pokemon, I kind of miss battling more actual trainers. And it makes sense that you don't in this because basically people don't know what Pokemon are at this point. They're just scary animals that are going to kill them all.
See, I don't miss that at all. I found like that's one of the better changes for me, in that like I kind of was getting to the point, even when I was reviewing Diamond and Pearl, where it's like I can see a way that they've designed, and it was there originally, but you can actually get round that person by sort of going round there without having to engage them. But I should fight them because of the experience, but I really don't want to because I'm going to load it in one shot and fuck off. And it's like I like that they have now given me the say as to whether I want those, like you say about the Starlies. Do I want to just farm them to get my Pokedex filled up with all the Starly stuff and get really crap XP, or level up some really low level Pokemon? Or do I want to just go, not interested, going over there? And I'm not going to accidentally fight you, because even if you engage me, I can run off. And I kind of I totally understand what you're saying. I 100% do. But I feel like I'm glad they're moving in a different direction. Like I say, my biggest fear is that they will then go back. But trying to guess what the Pokemon Company and Game Freak are going to do next is folly. Like, yes, I would like to think this time next year, I don't know if it'll even be that quick. I hope they probably take a bit longer, but like it'll be Pokemon Legends something else. Yeah. I hope.
I hope so too. Like, there are very few things I don't like about this game, and I think overall this is what I want Pokemon to be going forward.
Just iterate on it slightly, and
if a couple of things changed along the way, that would make me happy. But I'm not saying that how things are is necessarily bad. They may be slightly less to my taste as someone who is very, very into Pokemon.
That's right, yeah. The reception to this as well, I think, has given them the opportunity where if this was a chance for them saying, look, if this does well, we can finally stop going like Pokemon Black and White, Yellow and Blue and Red. Mm-hmm. We can go Pokemon Legends, whatever, and it can be this kind of game. I do wonder if we will end up in a situation with, like, because this tends to happen with Nintendo games. You've got your Zeldas where you've got your 3D Zeldas and your 2D Zeldas. You've got Mario 2D and 3D. You've now really, I think with this, you have now got the situation where they could easily have a second Pokemon team making a 2D game and another one making a 3D game, and every other year, like Call of Duty almost.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, is this going to be like a Monster Hunter Stories type thing, or a Mario Paper Mario
that's
thing,
another one. Yeah.
Where you say, like, there's the Legends games, and then there's the whatever you want to call it,
Purple and Green.
Yeah, Purple and Green. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what.
You're right. But I mean, as long as there's the Legends game still being made, I don't care so much, because this feels like I said before, it's my type of Pokemon game, and the game I'd get more enjoyment, and the game I'd probably finish, and I will finish this. It will take me time, but like I say, it's one of the games that started me back on really playing handheld on Switch. So like dipping in and out of it whilst I'm playing other things. Like there's not been a game that's done that to me for a little while. So I'm chipping away at it, and I'm loving every minute of it. So it will definitely get played alongside some of the other big hitters that are coming. And I'll definitely finish it because I keep going back to it. So I know it's not one of those ones that will drop off, which is always a good sign. So,
and big hitters are coming.
Yeah, they are.
But let's not dwell, lest someone makes an embargo-breaking comment, and let's do listener correspondence with the first question from McPoo, and he started strong. What's the weirdest game you've ever played? Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, just weird. I mean, there's one of the obvious ones that I was struggling with this, and I've got 4 that I've come up with that I've played. Then I've just now thought of one of the genuinely weirdest games I've played is Deadly Premonition. And that game is weird. You can't.
It's very weird.
There is so much weird about that. Even like, I mean, it's like, where do you start? Where do you even begin with the weirdness of that game? And then, to be honest with you, the second one's just as weird, but in a slightly different way. Like that's a weird game. Has anyone got any? Because I have got a list of 4, but I don't know if you guys have got any. Yeah.
Katamari Damacy reroll.
Ah, but that's no, right, no, it is. It is. I love that series, but that is
weird.
It's pretty weird.
But it's fucking weird.
No, it is. It is. Good game
I've
series
probably
though.
got a few.
Yeah.
No, really?
No, I didn't think you'd have any, mate.
Yeah. Most of these can be found in a thread on the God is Geek Discord. Just as a
to be fair,
if ever something you want
exclusive
to
bonus.
Exclusive bonus content. A beautiful place to go. I believe it's called Lyle Wonderworld currently.
Yes.
Is it? I'll change it tomorrow. Don't worry.
Nice, thank you. I've already been specifically told I can't say Mr. Mosquito, which, by the way, is a very weird and very good game.
But
I love Mr.
Did you list that once?
I did. I don't think that's as weird as Mr. Mosquito.
No, it's no more weird than like a Banjo-Kazooie, is it really? Let's be
no, not really. It's like sort
Great
of...
theme tune, though.
Oh, so good theme tune. Maybe the best theme tune in gaming.
I'm not even going to argue with him, Chris. That look says a lot there, Mr. Hyde.
But I've not heard it, so I can't...
you have to.
I mean, I think maybe Lyle's saying best like this, and I'm saying best with my fingers in air quotes.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah.
But I think we both mean what we're saying.
I think so too.
It's worth a listen. If you haven't heard the can't even say it now. Buck Bumble theme tune. Go and listen to it. It is well worth hearing.
I will do
It
that.
is. I'm so glad that the Buck Bumble theme tune got a mention on the podcast this week. Other weird games. Cho Aniki. I believe I picked this on Chris Hyde's birthday in the thread.
Oh, is that the weird naked man one?
It's a shmup where every character is a mainly naked man.
Yeah.
So, like, and not just like a mainly naked man in a boring way. Like, one of them is like a giant snail naked man who has out of a tube near his penis another bald naked man that extends out of it and shoots bullets at you and things like that. It's a very, very homoerotic shmup.
Thank you for that on my birthday. I really appreciated that.
It's a game that I think everyone should try. I think everyone would love it. No, I don't. That's not true at all.
Blatant lie.
But it's very entertaining on the eyes. It's very interesting to look at. Last up, I'm gonna say I think the name of it is it never came out outside of Japan, and it was a Dreamcast exclusive, and I believe it was called Say Ga Ga Ga, and it's like I've played a fan translation and not very much of it, and a very long time ago, but it's a sort of like a strategy game where you are trying to make Sega the most popular game company again, and it has like a fake Nintendo and a fake Sony that you're competing against, and it's really self-aware and really weird, and it's kind of like a game where it's almost about Sega knowing that they're failing at like consoles now, and it's really unusual, and I don't know who decided to make that and spend money on making it, but it's really weird.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. I mean, I think most people will have heard of Shower with Your Dad Simulator, right?
Yeah, that's on the thread.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, like that one I played, and that is just a really weird game. It's not like good or bad. It's just weird. This is gonna maybe come across because I think a lot of these are like, oh, they're weird because they're bad. But like Pooh says, it doesn't matter if they're good or bad. In fact, this is really, really a good game. The Typing of the Dead. But I think what a weird concept. Has anyone played it?
No.
You know the House of the Dead games, the light gun games. So it's that game, but instead of having a light gun, you have to a word will come up and you have to type it quickly. So it'll come up with like the word like prosthetic or something. You have to type it quickly, and if you get it, bang, you kill the zombie and you move on. And it's like a typing game. In fact, Pokemon, eventually did a similar game, didn't they? They started it with a keyboard. What was that called?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
they-
I've got
they-
that keyboard. It's this handy little
Yeah,
white Bluetooth
that rings
keyboard
a
it came
bell.
with. Can't remember what it's called. Anyway, that is a really weird. I mean, the fact that someone sat there and at Sega presumably and said this light gun series. What if we just made it
House of the
so you
Dead.
just a touch typing game? And it's great fun, by the way. It is fun.
Yeah, it sounds annoyingly fun.
It's good. So Sneak King. Has everyone heard of that from the 360 era?
I recognise the name.
So it's when Microsoft were doing these weird arcade games, and they like partnered with people, and it was the Burger King game. So it was where you were going around as the king, sneaking around in a stealth game, and you could buy this on a disc. I mean, now what a weird concept. And I guess on Dreamcast, Seaman, like literally, the game, the kind of Tamagotchi game, but where you're looking after a Seaman. Yeah. Anyone else, or should we move to the next question?
I just had a couple that I'd come up with. Did anyone ever play
Warhammer 3?
Yeah, yeah. Did anyone ever play Shaq Fu?
Yeah.
That game was weird.
Chris played the sequel, didn't you?
Which was incredibly
did they
not
have a sequel?
racist,
Wasn't
just
there a
very.
sequel, like last year or something.
No,
ignorant.
I'm pretty sure he reviewed it like a few years ago now. It was
Yeah,
pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic.
Was
but
it pre-pandemic?
Was shit.
Oh well, the original wasn't great. Like,
The original was a masterpiece.
uh,
It wasn't.
the other ones that come to mind, Lyle will have played Space Station Silicon Valley, which is a weird game.
Oh, that's such a good game.
So I'll drop that one in for him. And I also
Tomorrow's
that
Thread.
came to mind, which is just weird because of what it is.
It's already on there.
Sorry.
I said
I was just
Tomorrow's
saying.
Thread, but apparently it's already on there.
Is it? Is it already on there? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Does anyone play Chef's Love Shack on the N64?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, I played a little
Which
bit of
one
that.
was
at
that? Was that the
friends.
first person one?
No, that was
Is that the
it. Was the
quiz?
Oh, the quiz one.
the quiz game one. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Some of the
Yeah,
rounds
sort of
and
like-
questions on that were a bit
Almost
weird.
like Mario Party mini games a little bit as well.
Yeah, but like South Park versions of them, which makes
Yeah.
it instantly weird. Yeah, they're probably the weirdest ones. Nowhere near Mr. Carr's. penis
Weird
on
games are my
penis men
favourite. This was
things going
a
on.
made for me.
Yeah, it's a Lyle question.
The real Captain Redemption then says, who is planning to go back to Cyberpunk now it's been patched? We don't have to, to spend a long time on this. I will say I have installed the PS5 version, and I almost stupidly, because it's like, again, when am I going to get time? But I did like what I played on the PC.
I always said that I would go back, but I can't go back right now.
No, you can't. That's the thing now.
I can't go back right now. So I think I won't, because then the moment will have passed. So I can.
I think there's going to be enough games you're going to miss this year.
Yeah.
If you're not careful,
Mhm.
if you're not on it, there's going to be games you miss this. Like, Chris White, you were saying before the podcast that you really need to get on Pokemon, and we're only in February.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I feel Cyberpunk had its chance.
Yeah.
Maybe get it right
do you know
first
what?
time round.
It blew my mind when I sort of sat there going, "Hang on, this wasn't last Christmas, was it? Because we didn't talk about it on Game of the Year. It was the Christmas before.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good sort of
18
16
months.
Yeah,
16, 18
yeah.
months. So unfortunately, the answer then is, well,
Probably not.
I think most of us would like to try it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Infinite. Go on, sorry, Lyle.
I was going to say my only thought was I was trying to figure out if it would really count for best remake or re-release, but not really. So probably not going to be able to make time for it.
Okay, Infinite Granite has questions for... Well, actually, he says, Lyle, no questions for you. He knows your answers too well. He starts with Chris Hyde. Did you check out the new Xenoblade 3 character details from Nintendo UK's Twitter, and thoughts on the music so far?
So I looked at the pictures on the Twitter during the podcast because I hadn't seen them. So it does. I mean, unless I'm missing it, I can't see a lot of character model detail on them, to be honest. But I think this is as a follow-up from what we were talking about whenever we talked about the director. Was that last week? God, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, possibly.
But in terms of music, I can't wait. I still listen now to songs from Xenoblade and Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, just like on YouTube. I'll just bring up some of the songs. So I have high hopes. I haven't heard anything. Has anything? I don't know. I guess you can get in touch with me, but I've not heard any of snippets of anything specific. But I do love the music in both those games. So I'm looking forward to the equivalents in 3, because I think that's always a highlight. So I'm looking forward to it. But I haven't actually heard any of the music yet. So drop me a link if there is anything so I can have a listen.
Okie dokie. Chris White, he says, I read your King of Fighters review on NME.com. Did you like the cutscenes at the end of the team story mode? ?
Yeah, I think it doesn't take too long for you to get there because the story mode is like ridiculously short. Well, there is a lot of like replayability and playing through as different teams. So yeah, I mean they're visually much better anyway. So if you're talking like the way it looks compared to King of Fighters 14, then absolutely, because that was one of their first forays into 3D King of Fighters. But yeah, I enjoyed them, especially when certain characters are in it, which I don't want to spoil.
No.
Even though it would take you like 45 minutes to get there if you were to play it. But no, yeah, they were pretty impressive.
Cool. To me, he asks, are you getting Fire Emblem 3 Houses Warriors?
Isn't that the question?
Probably. Because I love Fire Emblem. Probably.
Even I'm not going to. And
Probably.
I think it's going to be great, that game. And
if Hyrule Warriors wasn't good, like I can't. Sorry, if
I
Hyrule
haven't
Warriors
played it.
If Hyrule Warriors wasn't the thing that was going to turn you into
but he doesn't
genre.
ask if I'm going to play it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I have a copy of Hyrule. What's the Switch version?
Calamity Wars.
Age of Calamity, the new one. Yeah, there is a route that is in this room somewhere, and I have Fire Emblem's Warriors. I have those. Like, he doesn't say, "Is Adam going to finish, complete, and give 10 out of 10 to?" He says, "Is he getting it?" Probably. Yes, probably. And the last question comes from Jippoju, which for some reason he's put Adam, pork or beef mince. I don't know why I'm being singled out in that way.
On the mince questions.
Why do I have to choose? Isn't that basically asking shepherd's pie or cottage pie?
Yeah. But
I guess so.
Which do you prefer?
I don't think I have
pork mince very often. I don't think.
No,
I have
mostly beef.
More than beef.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Fair enough.
Not that the question was asked to me, so
no, please answer, because I feel like this has weirded me out a little bit. Like, if I'm honest with you,
beef.
It's probably what his intention was. I'd say beef because I don't have pork very often, but
yeah, I'd say pork because I don't have beef very often.
If you're making spaghetti bolognese, what you throwing beef mince in?
Spaghetti bolognese with,
I'd put veggie mince in because one of us doesn't eat meat.
Well, that's an entirely different question. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can get like other kinds of minces as well, can't you, these days? But no, I suppose if it has to be a binary choice, probably beef mince then. Sorry.
I had a nice turkey mince recently.
I was going to say
that question has proper weirded you out. I love that.
It's not weirded me out.
So
I just don't
pleased with that
understand.
as well.
It's like, does he think that's like one of the answers to my security questions or something? Like, I don't.
He just wants to hear you say mince.
I'll say mince. I've nothing against saying mince. I know Jippo Chewy. I've seen him mince more than many other people. Eat mince, I should say. That's the term for when you eat mince. You mince, right?
What do you mean?
Is it?
Nah, you've gone too far. Yeah, you've gone too far. King of Segways is back. And I want well, someone's got to take the heat off of me. Thanks to Chris, Lyle, and all the people who listened, watched, or sent questions in, or just was in the live chat. We really appreciate it. It is getting to it's not even the business end of things. We are in the maelstrom, I would say, at the moment, in terms of games that we are playing and we can't talk about. And there's just, like I say, people keep announcing more games.
It might never end.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was talking to someone via email this very day about that, and they were saying perhaps this is what's going to become the new normal, to which I thought, oh, God, I hope not. Well, I mean, look, at least we're not bored. No one's bored, and there's always something to talk about. So on that note, go to patreon.com/GodIsAGeek, where you can see this podcast early, you can hear it early, you can get free codes, you can get access to the Discord channel where you can see Lyle's thread, and look, you don't see Chris Hyde's face, but just know that he's constantly shaking it as he reads it.
Just very sadly.
Just very sadly, like almost like he's given up, but I wouldn't blame him at all for that. You can go to twitter.com/GodIsAGeek and follow us there. You can go to our Facebook page and follow us there. And yeah, I mean, it's not hard. Type God is a Geek. Do leave a review. Click the thumbs up, the bell button, blah, 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 and all of that stuff. And we will speak to you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.